What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And my wonderful friend here, who's so gracious to join us today, is Dr. Cindra Kamphoff. Hello, Doctor.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, Gary. I'm excited for a conversation today.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have so much fun. We're going to help people, heal people, motivate people. People are just going to walk away from this going, holy crap, that Cindra's
Yeah.
awesome. So I'm just going to read your bio real quick, your introduction, and we'll get fired away.
All right, perfect.
Cool, biz. All right, everybody, we have Dr. Cindra Kamphoff. You devote your time, your effort, and your energy to the people that you serve every day. You do this because you care so much about the impact that you can have. Plus, as a leader, you know how important leadership and resilience skills are. That's what this special podcast is about. That's why Dr. Cindra Kamphoff is here today. She has specialized in this area for over 20 years. She is the founder of the Mentally Strong Institute, whose purpose is to help purpose driven leaders like you, as well as athletes, get to their goals quicker, multiply their confidence, and increase their influence. You also function as a team, perhaps as work, in your family, or in a sport. This is an area that Cindra has specialized in through her areas of professional sports. As an example, Cindra has worked for many years with the Minnesota Vikings. Skull! Does this mean
Oh, yeah,
that's when
you
you do the
know,
skull thing?
we can do that.
Helping their football players improve their mindsets and, the result, their ability to perform on the field. The U.S. Olympic track and field team has worked with her also at the Olympics for the exact same reason. Cindra's best-selling book, Beyond Grit, 10 Powerful Practices to Gain the High Performance Edge, is an Amazon bestseller. Many of the ideas that we'll cover today come from that book and many other brilliant things that come flying out of Dr. Cindra Kamphoff's brilliant mind. So welcome,
Thank
Doc.
you
Thank
so
you so
much,
much for
Gary.
being here.
Thanks for doing that. I really appreciate it. I'm excited. Let's go.
Let's do that. Okay, so like I warned you ahead of time, because we are the What If You Could podcast, the only question I have for us today is, do you have a what if you could moment? Did you have one at some point in your life? Do you have a what if you could you'd like to share with the crew?
I've had several, and I think the most impactful one to my career and to my life was actually in 2013. I was running the Boston Marathon. And if you know what happened in 2013, there was a bomb at the Boston Marathon,
Boston Strong.
Boston Strong. And I
Wow.
was one block away from that bomb. I
Oh,
just, yeah, I just had finished running the race. And, um, we heard some loud noises, but we didn't really know what those were. And, few moments later, we found out that they were bombs. And we, at that point, had moved to our hotel because there was just chaos everywhere. And um, we decided that year to stay really close to the finish line so that we could kind of get done running and then go out and cheer on the runners right after we maybe got showered. And so that was the moment where we opened up our curtain to our like our window to see what was going on. And at the same time, we turned on the news, and then the news reporter said, there's been a bomb at the marathon, and we didn't know that it was a terrorist attack at the time. But because we were so close to the finish line, we actually thought there was a bomb in our hotel, and there was that possibility. And so, as you could imagine, Gary, that just being there, my first kind of reaction went to actually my purpose and why I'm here and why, why was I not one of the people that were injured or killed? And then it also went to my family, why is my family really important to me? And those kind of two things kept on just being the anchors that I came away with. And um, coming back from the marathon a couple of days later, to be honest, I was a completely changed person because I started having these conversations with myself of like, what if I could? And that moment made me realize that I was playing really small. And maybe there's times in your life where you've experienced that too, or those people who are listening that, you know, I thought that it was probably the last day of my life at some moments during that day. And it's like, did I really live the way I was supposed to? Am I really living on purpose? Why do I do what I do? What difference do I make? Those are all the big questions I was asking myself. And as a result, once we kind of got back from the marathon and we're working through it and all the emotions that came with just being there, the thing that I was left with was like, I'm playing too small and I'm holding myself back. And I knew that I was meant for more. And so I decided to go after some of these bigger goals that I had, like working with the Vikings. But I don't know, Gary, I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't play football,
You know what?
I didn't play football.
You don't. Oh, I thought you were a linebacker. No,
Yeah,
I would
I
have never.
wish. I would
Totally
never
would have
known.
fooled me.
That's awesome. If I could have, if I would have realized what I know now, what if I could? I would have played football in high school. I think that would have been
Well,
awesome.
we know you have the grit for it, right? You would have been a badass
Exactly.
linebacker. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm really speedy. So, really good linebacker, maybe running back, cornerback.
So,
Anyway.
so I just back to this marathon because this is amazing because that was like I don't know. I think people didn't appreciate the levity of that as much, and I don't know if it's because our media is so horrible, or I'm not sure, or because we wanted to protect the assailants. You know, I don't know why that wasn't a bigger issue for people in the country. It's like a wake up call to what's going on. But so
Yeah.
had you run past
Hmm.
the area, and then
Hmm.
when you had gotten past it, the bomb blew up behind you?
Hmm.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you could
So,
have been. I mean,
yeah.
I got goosebumps thinking about it. I mean, it's like a car accident when you go through a red light and someone could hit you. I mean, you literally could have been.
Yes.
That bomb could have blown off when you were there.
Yes, and my husband and our like friends who were supporting us were near the spot, right? Just, minutes earlier. And so it does make you realize like, I mean, to me, it made me just question my life and question my purpose. And I decided to do things differently when I got back and specifically going after some really courageous goals, like working with the Vikings. I know we were joking about that, but I also wanted to write a book. And I think at the time in 2013, I was like, well, I don't know if anyone would read it. I don't know. Do I know enough? Do I, all the like self doubt. And it's this amazing, wonderful book that changes people's lives now, and so I think,
You're getting emotional right now just thinking about this. It's like your
yeah,
demeanor changed. I mean, that's how important this event had on you.
yeah. And I think, Gary, the amazing thing is that we all go through tough moments like this. And maybe it's not the Boston Marathon, that's a pretty big event in your life. But there are moments where we've all had crucible moments where we go back and we question, or it makes us wake up to what's going on. Maybe it's a health issue or a heart attack or, all the different things. And it's like we can be a victim to that. Why is this happening to me? Why was I at the Boston Marathon when all this happened? Or we can say, like, what's the gift here? How can I grow through this? How can I not just get through it, but be a better, stronger person? And that's how I chose intentionally to understand that event in my life. And I think because of that, it made me play a bigger game. And I'm continuing to try to continue to break through that. And ultimately, like that's why I think I coach people and why I help, leaders and athletes is like I think we all hold ourselves back and we don't play to our potential and we play small instead of like really going after what we really, really want or what we know that we are designed to do.
But Cinder, here's the deal. People don't, people who are not runners, I've done a marathon. I just did one many years ago. Love 10Ks, love triathlons, things like that. But people who don't run don't understand the New York Marathon, the Boston Marathon, like that. You just don't show up and go, "Hey man, I'm going to run a marathon," right?
No.
You have to
Yeah.
qualify to run the Boston Marathon,
Yes.
right? Or you need to get
Yes.
into the pool to do it because so many people want to do it there. So
Yeah.
you had already obviously been achieving some very high goals, which a lot of people could only aspire to. I would have loved to run the Boston Marathon. I've got a friend who's run that twice, who's run the London Marathon and the New York Marathon. But the effort for him to get in there is very difficult. So it's not like you had not already been achieving things at a
Yeah.
pretty high level, right? So, but
Right.
now you're like, even though I'm a badass, I'm really a sissy because my
Yeah.
potential is so much greater than the badassedness that I'm doing, which for
Yeah.
most people is a 90 percentile, right? But this brought you to like, man, I've got so much more, which is
Yeah.
awesome. That's amazing.
And I think like even though that I still feel like there's so much more, that, and I think potential is unlimited. I think it's endless. I think we're the only people really that get in the way of our potential. And it's so easy to get in your own way because your brain and your default is like the negativity bias, focusing on what you don't have or what's wrong with you, or how that big dream is not possible instead of like claiming it and saying, no, what if I could? And then dreaming about that and claiming it and saying, I will, and ultimately, like, that's what I did when I got back from the marathon. I was like, I want to work for the Vikings. And to be honest, most people were like, you're crazy. You didn't play football. Good luck with that.
And you're a chick. It's like, wait a
And I'm a
minute.
chick.
You're going to go to these big dudes, and I do have a Minnesota Vikings jersey, number 69, a great
That's
lineman for the
awesome.
Minnesota Vikings forever,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
But here you are. It's like, all right, I'm a gal, and I'm not a football player, but I'm gonna go to these 6'6", 350 pound dudes, and I'm gonna get in their face, and I'm gonna, or however you work with them, right?
Sure.
Grab them by the face mask, and take them to another level. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll chicks do that.
Yeah, all chicks do that. And there, I mean, good point. Good point, right? Good point. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that sounds really, really scary and, courageous and whatever. But I think we all have those things that we know that we were meant for more, but we hold ourselves back or we make excuses or say, that's not possible for me. And no matter what you've achieved or if you feel like you've, achieved a lot, I would just say like what else is out there? And I think once we keep on growing in our own courage, there's an awesome quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she said, "Do one thing every day that scares you, and these small things that make you uncomfortable help you build the courage to do the work that you do," which ultimately I think means that when we're courageous every day, that helps us live our purpose. And if we're not courageous, we kind of play small or live small, or we stay in our comfort zone. And I would just say, like, does that serve you? Does that serve other people? And I don't think that you're really living into your potential if you don't keep on stretching that muscle, which is the courage muscle.
Yeah. Why do we do that? Why do we not? Why do we play small? Why do we afraid to tip our toe into something? Why do we take I mean, does it start younger when our parents are like, "Oh, you can't do that," or "A teacher, you can't do that"? I mean, why don't we no one gets out of here alive, right? We just don't. And I've died twice in the last 3 years, so I got to be here for something. So why
You
do
are.
right? I know
Yes,
I
you
have no
are.
clue why. I don't know.
Amen. You
Um,
are.
but
Hmm.
why do we play small? And how do you get someone to see that they're playing small without hurting their feelings or making them feel wrong for it, but to get them to go, gosh,
Hmm.
guys, you've got
Hmm.
so much opportunity on this planet. Why don't we
Hmm.
try something else?
Hmm. That is a great question, Gary. This would be my answer. My answer is because your brain is programmed to keep you safe, and you have a part of your brain called the amygdala, which is where your fight, flight, or freeze lives. And we all need that because, many times our amygdala keeps us safe. We wouldn't go and walk out on the street with all these cars going by because we know we would get hit, right? And so but our amygdala also gets in the way of our success. And I think of there's 5 big inner blocks to potential. And these are what I've learned from, I do a lot of coaching where I coach obviously like professional athletes, but I also coach executives, CEOs, and different leaders, mid-level leaders. Like our coaching company is called Mentally Strong Institute, and we coach, you
Wait, wait,
know,
wait, wait. What's it called?
it's called the Mentally Strong Institute,
Right. Okay.
which basically we coach people all day long. And so when you coach people, they really tell you what's really going on and what's their inner block. And I think every single person has these 5 inner blocks. And I know this just from working with lots of different types of people. I think we experience fear, and fear can come in a lot of different ways because of this amygdala, like fear of other people's opinions, fear of failure, fear of success. So we have fear. We all have limiting beliefs, and these are beliefs that we repeat over time that become things that really hold us back. Number 3 is judgment, and judgment of ourselves or other people. And sometimes that can serve us, but many times it doesn't. And then number 4 is comparison. And we need to compare because we need to know kind of where we are in the world. But most of the time we don't do a fair comparison, and we're constantly putting ourselves down. And then the last one would be our own self-doubt. And when you first asked the question, like why do we get in our own way, or why do we play small? I wrote 2 things on my sheet. It's like fear and listening to our inner voice. And I think I wouldn't necessarily just abruptly say, I think you're playing small until I got to know somebody and got to understand what their goals are. But if you're really pushing yourself to being your best, you're going to have big goals that are a little bit scary. And the best type of goals are the goals that are just a little bit scary because they push you to your potential.
Well, I love all that, and I freaking love every one of those, and I want to touch a little bit on those, but I keep going back to this. You were already at a high level when you decided I'm not even playing all out. When you already are so above what people are doing, but then you've decided to take people that are at the top of their profession. You do not become a professional football player because there's 5 million guys who want to do it. And there's only, what, 46 on a team or 53 on a team. So,
Yeah.
you're taking people who are already the best of the best of the best, sir, and telling them that we can get you further. And the same thing with the Olympic track team. I mean, these Olympians are like Olympians. So you're right. So you're
Yeah.
going to these people that are already like at the top and saying, I know there's more in there, and I'm going to help
Mm,
you get there.
mm,
And
mm.
is when you're working with them, are you working with them through the Mentally Strong Institute, or is that
Yep.
your own coaching thing?
Yeah, so the Mentally Strong Institute is like my company. And so I work through them through that, right? So that's ultimately how I work with like professional athletes or leaders or executives. And what I would say, Gary, is the average NFL, do you know that what the average NFL career is? Like how long do you think guys?
Just 3.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
last I
we
read
don't
was
think that because we see
no,
guys like those
Tom
guys.
Brady.
I'm not gonna say bad things about them because no one likes Rodgers, but especially if you're from Minnesota,
Yeah, no doubt.
right? So, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been around for like 97 years, so we think professional football players like forever, but it's
Right.
like 3.5 years, right? It's
Yeah.
very
Last stat I heard was 2.7. So
2.7, yeah. And they
yeah.
sign a big contract. They think they have money. They have all this stuff. Next thing you know, they're bankrupt and they don't know what to do with their life because they're football players. It's really a tough gig.
And most people don't sign the big gigs and contracts that we see, right?
Yeah.
And so What I would say is like most professional athletes are just like you and me, where and every single professional athlete that I've worked with, their confidence has fluctuated. And so, like, maybe they've gotten to the highest level, but can they stay at that highest level? And can they sustain 10 years in the league? Or, think about an Olympian, can they perform under pressure when it matters most to them? So they might have made it to the Olympics, but maybe they want to get a gold medal. And actually, the fascinating part is when they're at the Olympics, if they're thinking about that gold medal, it actually gets away from the process and the small things that we have to do to be successful. And it takes our away from the focus on the things that really matter. And so what I have found is that how do we get out of our own way? How do we not play small? I think it takes daily mental conditioning, meaning every single day training your mind to believe in yourself, to tell yourself the truth, and to really pull back the layers of like why you're here and what difference do you want to make, and what are some goals you're going after? And we know we need goals to keep us going and to keep us moving forward. And if we don't have goals, that's when we get into a downward spiral that can lead to, depression or stagnation instead of really um, a pushing towards what we want, which is scary, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting touching on your fear, minimal beliefs, judgment, comparison, and self-doubt. Fear, forget everything and run, or
Yeah, yeah,
false evidence appearing real, however,
I
whatever
know.
acronym. But it's so
Yeah,
interesting because you know this way better than me. But it's amazing that many people at the top of their game, whether a CEO, an athlete, an actor, actress, live in fear because we think of them as this, huge success. They're a great athlete or famous actress or actor or CEO, but their fear of losing that edge, a better actress, prettier actress coming up, a better athlete coming up. That guy on the practice team is going to replace me. It's a massive amount of fear that these people deal with, even though they're at the peak, right? I mean, you must see that all the time.
yeah, and I think what's interesting about fear is, we all experience it again because our brain's main purpose is to keep us safe. And
Mhm.
I don't think it's possible to become fearless, like never have any fear, because,
That would be dangerous.
that would be dangerous, right? And who knows what we would do. And perhaps like the examples that you're giving are, hey, I'm going to better myself because I'm nervous that somebody else is going to take my spot. Like that can be things, even in professional sports that can drive people, but it can become dangerous because if you're constantly comparing yourself to others, if you're living in fear, you can't also be free when you're performing. And we know that there's all these different attributes of when we perform. Um, and how people perform at their best, and we all perform in some way. We're either, maybe we're an athlete, or we perform in our job, or we're a mother or a sister or a brother, right? And so we know that, when people approach their performance in a fearful way, that doesn't lead to consistent high performance. And, typically there's more like anxiety that can come from that and pressure. And that's really hard to sustain at a high level when you're feeling a lot of those emotions consistently.
Well, we know that when you're in that anxiety mode or that fear mode, you've broken off the flow, right?
Right.
It's hard to really get into that full flow, let your body perform at its highest if it's got that anxiety, because you're blocking off other areas where you need
Hmm.
to be the most confident. You need to have that flow. You need to feel good in where you're going, and fear will cut that off faster than anything. Anxiety
Yeah.
will cut that off, and then the minimum beliefs. I mean, God, how many professional athletes have you run into, or CEOs, that most people would kill to be in their spot, just still don't have that belief in themselves? And you go, how did you get here if you don't have these beliefs, right? How did you
Yeah.
achieve this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, Gary, that I can respond to related to that. flow is this ability to be at your best and also be in the moment. And I had a woman on my podcast named Dr. Susan David, or no, Dr. Susan Jackson, who is one of the leading researchers on flow, and particularly flow in sport. And she talked about how there's three things that get in the way of us experiencing flow. Number one, focusing on ourselves. Number two, forcing it. And number three, focusing on the outcome.
Mm.
And, I think about this importance of having like this toolkit that you can use in these really high pressure moments that you can catch yourself and say, hey, what can I do to not be in my own head and focus on myself? Or maybe I'm trying to push it and force it too much. Or maybe I'm at the Olympics and I'm focusing on the outcome. Or I'm, in a job interview, and then in my back of my mind, I'm thinking about, are they even gonna hire me? You're focusing on the outcome, and that takes you away from the present. And in the present moment is where we're at our best. And even when you said that, high level CEOs or leaders, they don't believe in themselves. I think the reason for that is because confidence fluctuates. And when we get in these moments where maybe we've had tough feedback, or we just got a new promotion and we're really, you know, we're overwhelmed by all the new information. Like, of course, your confidence is going to fluctuate to speak. And I think that's helpful to know that you're just normal. And it's a natural thing when you're really pushing yourself, that you're not going to be 100% confident in yourself all the time. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you.
That if it is, you're a damn narcissist and you need some help. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
always just think you're just the greatest thing ever, I mean, if you don't question yourself in some points at some areas like you did, you got through the Boston Marathon, you had this life-changing incident, you already were successful in so many areas, but you sat down and said, I could do better. You questioned yourself, right? You said, I know I can take this to another level, and I'm obviously here to do for a reason, or I'd be in bits and pieces. So you do have to question yourself at times, right?
Yeah. What's scary for you, Gary, as you kind of think about, and you're listening to this and you're thinking about, hopefully in your mind, you're saying, well, am I playing small? What's a courageous goal that you're trying to go after?
For me personally,
Yeah.
well, I think about that all the time because I've done just lots of training and coaching. I do this just for shits and giggles and to meet amazing folks like you, right? But I've been a real estate broker for 35 years. My son and I have a company, and we always have these meetings. I mean, my kids, they would tell you, when we'd go on road trips, which we did a lot, we didn't sing songs and put on Barney and this, and I put on, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow
Yeah.
Rich. I put on Tony
Awesome.
Robbins. We worked on NLP, and my wife's like, dude, they're two. I'm
That's
like, yes, but
awesome.
they'll hear it. They'll hear these messages. They'll hear Earl Nightingale. They'll hear all these things. So I've always believed in this working on yourself, getting better thing, right? So
Yeah.
but what happened was, and I'm an amazing manifester. I'm sorry for a long answer, but you asked me, so I'm going to
No,
answer.
yeah, this is a
So
great
I'm
answer.
an amazing manifester, right? I used to be able to manifest anything because my beliefs and my intention is very strong. My wife got cancer in 2012 and died in 2014. When
Oh,
she died,
no.
my manifester broke. I couldn't get out of
Oh, yeah,
I was in a funk for just, I'm
of
still in it
course.
10 years later,
Yeah,
right? And so,
yeah.
all of a sudden I got cancer, and like I told you, I'm the healthiest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, I'm just so dedicated to my health I'm always getting the scans and the labs, and so I was shocked when I got cancer. I was so pissed off. I'm like, oh no, you didn't. Cancer, no way. I'm gonna kick your ass, right? And I'm in remission, and like I told you a couple weeks ago, I had a heart attack. I'm like, dude, but this is what the doctor told me, and I want to find someone to do a podcast with this on. I said, Doc, what is going on? He goes, well, we put a stent, we put a pacemaker. And the crazy thing is, your heart is super healthy. We scoped it. There's nothing there. There's no plaque. There's no calcium. Your body's healthy. Your composition's healthy. He goes, so I said, what happened? He goes, emotion. He goes,
Oh,
that valve, that artery is your emotion artery. And it just shocked me,
wow.
right? And he said,
Hmm.
you broke yourself. you broke your heart. You broke your,
Wow.
this came about not from anything physical. This came about from mental. And I go, Doc,
Wow.
I mean, this was yesterday. This is my point was yesterday. And I was just in shock that our mind can do that to ourselves, right? So,
Yeah.
to answer your long-winded question, I have a lot of things I want to do. I want to build out the real estate company and the property management company for my son. I've started getting into grief counseling. I want to go deeper into working with people in grief and do actual grief counseling. And I love this podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
will I be a Joe Rogan? No, you know, but I'm way better looking than Joe Rogan, so I
That's awesome.
don't. He'll kick my ass. Did Joe hear that? Joe,
I
you heard
don't
that on
know.
all.
Maybe.
But the reason for the podcast, I started a podcast called Grief Pie. And my friend's wife died right around the same time my wife died. We talk every day. We knew each other for 30 years. We knew our husband, we know ours. And so we talk every day. And I said, you know what, Jim, this is really good. We should put this on a podcast to share men who've lost a spouse in grief and walk through this. Total crash and burn mission. All we did was cry and whine and moan.
Yeah.
So he couldn't do it anymore. It just wasn't working out for him. But I thought, you know what? I really want to reach people.
Yeah.
I just desperately have the need to reach people, expose them to Cindra. Um, and so that's kind of my goal with this.
That's
Long-winded
amazing.
answer. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing is like some big courageous goals though, and I think that's great because that's what you need to keep going. And wow, to get that news that it's like the emotion part of your heart, that also gives you like real evidence on why you have to kind of work through grief and how you have to work through the emotion piece and how our emotions do impact our health. And I think we all know this, that our thoughts, the way I kind of think about it is I like to use this acronym called TFA, just to make it simple. And it's like our thoughts lead to our feelings, then lead to our actions. And it's like if we want to change how we feel, we have to start with what are we focused on? What are we thinking about? And grief is a whole different thing than, it's a different animal. But I think what's powerful about your story is just this idea of like, that our emotions can impact our health.
Uh, it's it's really amazing. But with what you're doing, um, you're able to help people with their emotions, um, which
Yeah,
which are so powerful. I mean, like I talk about manifesting. I mean, we all manifest, but unfortunately, we manifest negative things because we have negative thoughts in our brain all freaking day long. We beat ourselves up all
exactly.
day long. So, in order to get through your fear, your minimum beliefs, your judgment, your comparisons, and your self doubt, right? We have to stop beating ourselves up. I mean, we're really our worst enemy, but we should be our best friend and our biggest advocate, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we don't, first of all, I'd say like in general, people aren't always aware of this inner voice inside their head. I think that's the power of having a coach. And I honestly think like everyone should have a coach. I think it should be something that we just, decide to do because we see that we're holding ourselves back. I've had a coach for the same person for 12 years, and she just helps me take a step back and say like, what, because even I can go to extremes or go to, like I can go down a rabbit hole that's actually not even true. Just because I'm human, just like you are. I have this tool that I really like that I wrote about in one of my books called Beyond Grit for Business. And it's all about like how you can use the Beyond Grit practices in leadership or in business. And the tool is called the truth meter. And when we notice ourselves, in a spiral, or we're noticing ourselves holding ourselves back, or we pay attention to our thoughts and we notice a thought that's getting in the way of our success, we ask ourselves three questions. Question one is this true? Question two, is this thought serving me? And question three is, what would be a more empowering thought I could choose right now? And I think what helps the people I coach, how that helps people is, you know, one person I was just talking to is a leader, and she was saying that she gets really triggered when people have like a condescending tone or a rude tone. And she told me that it's, well, because she takes it personally. And, she thinks it's about her and then that people are challenging her. And then we went through the truth meter, like, is that actually true? Well, no, people do things because of them, not because of you. Okay. Number two, is this serving me? No, because then I just get triggered and frustrated, and that's not the kind of leader I want to be. Okay, what could be a more empowering thought that I could choose instead? And she chose something like, uh, it's not about me, right? Because usually it's not about us. People do things because of themselves, and most people are thinking about themselves. They're not even actually thinking about you, but we take things so personally.
Yeah. We see that in conversations. We see people who aren't listening. They're just waiting for you to take a breath so that they can give you their opinion. They completely disregarded everything you said. They just are talking at you and they're not
That's
talking
true.
with you. And
Yes.
it's amazing. Like I tell my boys forever, and I tell my friends, people can be crabs in a bucket, right? They just
Yeah.
put two crabs in a bucket. One is just going to pull the other one down as they're trying to get out, and so you just can't take that personally. You have a mission, or like you said, you have a goal, you have a mindset, you know what you want, and to let anyone outside of you tell you you can't do it or to talk you out of it or make you feel bad about it is complete madness.
Right.
Because the fact of the matter is, you're the only one that matters. Of course, my wife matters, my family matters, my friends matter. But I mean, in the purpose of getting to where you want for yourself, for your heart for goal, for what the purpose you think you're here for, you're the only one, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can't do it for someone else.
You can't do it for someone else. And like you're the only one that can train your mind to get out of your own way. And I think of like the topics we've been talking about is like confidence is like a cycle. We just gotta keep on committing to believing in our potential and talking to ourselves powerfully and letting go of the past and thinking about the future. It's like this constant cycle we gotta keep on working through just to go after our big goals or even get clarity on what those goals even are.
Yeah. So I mean that kind of covered the judgment aspect and almost a comparison aspect because you just can't let people judge you and you can't compare yourself to others. So self-doubt though, boy, that's a massive and I think in today's society with social media with so much negativity everywhere. I've never in my 61 years seen so much negativity in the world and with people. I
Yeah.
mean, than I have now. Even, Vietnam and race relations and all that is just so that was also bad, but this negativity in this world is just unbelievable. I mean, don't you think? I mean, don't you think we've kind of really screwing ourselves here?
I noticed the negativity growing more and more like during COVID and right before COVID. And I think the why that's not helpful is because even if you look at what the research shows, is there's some clear research on people thriving. A woman named Dr. Barbara Fredrickson did a whole like 30 years of research to show that people thrive when they experience a 3-to-1 ratio, like 3 empowering emotions to 1 disempowering emotion. Okay. And even in the workplace, when you look at like high performing teams, they have a ratio of around 5 or 6 to 1, 5 or 6 more positive comments or positive body language to 1 negative or disempowering. And, so what does that mean? That means like your team thrives when there's more positive energy. You thrive when you're having more positive emotions. And I think that we have to really be intentional about that because if you're not, you can turn on the news and watch the news all day and then you feel pretty crappy and you don't, there's no hope for the future because you're tuning into all the negativity. So you got to be really careful about that and kind of protect your energy, protect your focus. And I think like intentionally choose the energy that you want to have. It's easy to get stuck in the negativity.
Yeah, it's wicked. Turn everything off. Holy cow. Just, focus on yourself and good things. And like I've always told my boys, if you're feeling really poopy or you're feeling this or that, go help somebody. A simple
Yeah.
thing is, if
Yeah.
you see someone without a smile, give them yours. I mean, in a bigger sense, it's like just stop, staring at your navel and just stop getting into all this crap. Go help somebody. You'll feel better. Go inspire somebody. Go do something for others that will help you. It's a selfish way to help yourself by helping others sometimes. But I want to ask about your book real quick because I know
Okay.
we're getting tight here. So, Beyond Grit, 10 powerful practices to gain the high performance edge. So, silly question, but curious question is, how do you describe grit? What do you think of as grit?
That's a great question. So the book covers these 10 practices, and the first one is grit. And the other nine support our grit. Many of the things I talked about today are within the book somewhere. I use this definition of grit. That's kind of um, I would say the most accepted definition in the psychology literature by Angela Duckworth. And she describes it as like passion and perseverance and purpose to your very long-term goals. So I think grit is about sticking with things when they're hard, sticking with your goals. But these three words that start with P, they are what fuels our grit. So our passion, our purpose. How do we pick ourselves back up when we fall down? And how do we know that in many studies, grit has been found to be the number one predictor of our success. Okay. I mean, I don't know if it's number one, but it's at least like one of the top predictors. And ways that you can keep developing your grit, because it's not something you're born with, is you could, number one, get clear on your goals. What do you want? Number two, why are you doing what you're doing? And why do you want those goals? So get clear on your purpose. Number three, it's all about like how you talk to yourself. And can you kind of level up your own thoughts, not believe in all that negativity? Um, and then I would say number four is our own compassion with ourselves. And so being kind and compassionate when you fail or when you feel inadequate or you feel like you're falling on your face, can you get yourself back up and say, it's okay, you got it next time. Kind of like what you said, talk to yourself like your best friend and be kinder to yourself because we know self-compassion actually predicts motivation and performance and life satisfaction and even achievement. It's like I used to think that the more I beat myself up, the better I would do. I was actually a runner growing up and won a state championship in high school and got a college scholarship. And I thought the way to make it to the Olympics was to beat myself up after I had a bad race. But as you could imagine, it was kind of the opposite. It was kind of just, I got into this downward spiral. So, being kind to yourself is a really key part of being your best and thriving.
It's bizarre about people like that's how my dad was motivated with reverse psychology. And that works for some people. Like, dude, you can't do that, hoping that you'll go, yes, I can, Dad, I'll prove you wrong. But if you don't have that mindset that works that way, like screw you, I'll show you mindset, then reverse psychology is really painful. It's really hurtful. And like you said, I mean, when you do it to yourself,
Yeah,
you try to motivate yourself in a negative way. Maybe that
right.
works for some people, but I think most people it's more painful, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
you do have to be kinder to yourself because
you
no one
do.
else is.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And I think like to be kind to yourself, I think just recognizing like, hey, everybody suffers with something. Everyone's struggling. Oh, I had a sneeze there.
Bless, bless you.
Excuse me. All right. Hopefully you can edit that out. But everyone's struggling with something, and part of being hard on yourself is because you're human, and so it's like part of common humanity to beat yourself up and feel like you're inadequate. Like that's part of the human experience. And I think when you realize that, you can learn to soften that inner voice and talk to yourself more like your inner coach would. Like what would your coach say to you? If it's a coach like me, or if it's a coach like an athletic coach, or maybe you have a business coach, what would your coach say to you? And they wouldn't say to the things that you say to yourself.
Yeah. It's funny when got my real estate license in 1990. Um, First thing I did was get a coach. And it's like people
Awesome.
like, dude, you don't you have not sold a house. You don't know what you're doing. You're still waiting tables at night, to
Yeah,
try to support your day job. And I'm like, yeah, but how do I want to stay here? I mean, I don't know anything. Do I want to continue to not know anything? I mean, I
right,
want to coach. And like I know a lot of people use this line forever. Frickin' Michael Jordan had a coach. Greatest
right,
basketball, maybe one of the greatest basketball players in ever had a
yeah.
coach because you're never too good to have a coach. Ever. I mean, a mentor, a coach, someone who can lead you through or see you where you're not seeing yourself, especially. And I was
Or
thinking
see
about,
your blind spots,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, point those things
Mhm.
out and give you kind of steer you, tack you like a sailboat. The wind's going this way, you got to tack. Can't go straight in a sailboat. It's impossible. You got to tack and turn. But I was thinking about some of these professional athletes. I mean, you watch these guys playing in Buffalo or Minnesota before they had the dome. You guys have an awesome new stadium. That U.S. Bank Stadium is crazy.
Beautiful.
But before, when you see these guys playing Green Bay and Buffalo and stuff like that, I mean, anyone who's been in the cold, if you just ding your finger on something, it hurts like a mofo, right? Now imagine these guys just beating the crap out of each other for an hour in this weather. You have to have some sort of mental grit, right? I mean, you have
Resilience,
to have some sort
absolutely.
of that, right? So,
Yeah.
and the athletes, it's like to try to get that extra quarter of a second in their time, you have to be able to push through that pain and have that belief you could do it. And when you're working with these guys, I mean, where does that come from? How are you able to get them there? I know we don't have a lot of time to talk about, but I mean, how do you get them there?
Well, what's interesting is we did a study last year where we interviewed professional athletes about how they developed their grit. And, you know, there were some things that I expected to find in the study that, for example, their coaches, their mentors, their parents helped them develop their grit. But three-quarters of them said something I didn't expect. And they said grit came from getting through the most difficult moment in their lives, you know? And so even if we just start with kind of where we began today about my story at the Boston Marathon and seeing it like as a gift that I was there, and I think what is helpful is to know that grit comes from hard things too, not just easy things. And it's our really framing of that event that makes all the difference. And if we can see hard things as like helping us grow and learn, and helping us be our best, the best version of ourselves, or leading us to the goal that we really desire or can have the biggest impact in our lives. I think that's a powerful like attribute, right? That keeps you going and keeps you moving forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you're an amazing, kiddo. I just want to respect your time. I know you have a lot of other stuff points going on, but I just want to say, I lied earlier. I'm a liar. I totally lied. I said I had, I said I had one question, which was what
Yes.
if you could question, but I actually have two questions, and I lied. But I don't give you the first question. I don't give you the second question in the opening like I always do. But the second question is before we go, and I want you to enlighten us on what you're doing and stuff like that before we go. But I mean, so my last question is this: if you were to leave us with a thought, a vision, a saying, just something that really means something to Cindra, uh, that you would like to share with the gang and stuff, what would that one thought be before we say goodbye?
That's a great question. There's a tool in my book that's one of my favorite tools that I use every day. And it's a tool called Learn, Burn, Return. And
Learn, burn, return.
mhm. And it's all about letting go more quickly and focusing on what you can control. And that's why I would leave people with is when things don't go well, when you feel like you've made a mistake, picking yourself back up is key. And so the first thing you want to do is just say, what am I learning here? And tell yourself, what would I do differently next time? Like you can't do anything about what just happened. Then we want to burn it. Burn it means let it go. And if you choose kind of the same phrase or action every time, like mine is how fast? That fast. you know, like just a snap and a saying, but maybe yours is like pretending to flush a toilet or I don't know, throwing a piece of paper in the garbage, brushing it off. Like if we do the same thing every time, it strengthens a new neural pathway. And so you're less likely to overthink. And most high achievers, most high performers, if you're still listening to this episode, it means that you probably overthink because you really want to be at your best. And so we got to stop that cycle. And when you're really beating yourself up, ask yourself, how can I learn? How can I burn? And then return means how can you return confidently? Like reset your confidence. Talk to yourself powerfully, even though you made the mistake, or even though things didn't go perfect for you or you're disappointed, like build yourself back up. And I think that's a really important attribute to like building grit and confidence is to pick yourself back up when things don't go perfect for you because, failures and setbacks and disappointments can be the greatest learning opportunities.
If you're living life, I it just drives me nuts when people go, "Yeah, but he tried all those things and failed. So I'm not gonna." Or he's achieved all this stuff, but he failed those 7 times, so he's a complete failure. I'm like, you know what, buddy? That person has tried more things in a month than you've tried in your lifetime. You're going to fail. The old Edison thing, the 10,000 light bulb thing,
Yeah.
um, so I love that. Learn, burn, and return. I'm a big journaler, and I
Yeah.
found myself in this 2-year window where
Okay.
all of my journaling was way negative. That's probably why I got
Sure.
the heart attack, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
super negative stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's not like you. So I
Mm.
was talking to my friend who's a psychic, the best psychic ever, Julie Barrows, greatest psychic ever. And Jules said, you know what, dude? Take your journals and throw them in the fire. Take all those pages one at a time,
Burn it. Burn it.
bless them,
Yeah.
and burn them. Just
Yeah.
bless them and
Nice.
watch the ashes go into the sky. And that's why when you said learn,
Very
burn, and
cool.
return, it's like when I
Yeah.
return back to my journals, the fresh
Yeah.
ones, I chose to get more empowering thoughts into my journal.
Awesome.
So to
Awesome.
learn, burn, and
Mm-hmm.
return
And you might
is
actually burn something.
sometimes you got to burn some shit down, right? I mean, yeah. Right? I mean, a forest fire is tragic, except
Yeah.
for when it's out in the forest, and that's just how nature works. And once the fire starts in these forests, all the other things bud. They shoot the seeds into the ground. The ashes create the soil healing. The rain comes, and from that fire, more beautiful things grow. So sometimes fire is cleansing and healing. I don't want anyone to go burn anything.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So, Dr. Cindra Kamphoff, you have been absolutely amazing. I want to respect your time. You've been wonderful. I'm so grateful you're here, but I'd love, can you please share with us where can we find you, what you have cooking, about your books, about the Mentally Strong Institute. Can you please walk us through that and how we can find you?
Sure, absolutely. You can head over to my website, drcindra.com, and you can find all information about our Beyond Grit books over there. And then I have a coaching company called the Mentally Strong Institute, and I'm going to offer anybody who's listening, Gary, a complimentary coaching session with my team or myself. All right. And this is for you just to see if coaching's right for you to learn more about it. As I said, like I think everyone needs a coach to really help them be their best and get out of their own way and train their mind and help get more clarity on like where you want to go. So ultimately, I think coaching helps people get to their goals quicker and uncover their limiting beliefs and really be their best more often. And so you can go to this website called freementalbreakthroughcall.com, and that's where you can sign up and say that you heard Cindra on Gary's show, What If You Could podcast. Okay. Again, that's freementalbreakthroughcall.com. And we'd love to serve you and see if coaching is right for you.
Oh man. So, guys, if you are not inspired after an hour of listening to Dr. Cindra Kamphoff, well, I don't even know what to say.
You're
Just
so nice, Gary. Thank
go
you.
back and just go back to bed. Um,
Go back to bed.
but yes, that's awesome. So please go to freementalbreakthroughcall.com. Mention the What If You Could podcast that we did and get a free coaching call and then just sign up. Why wouldn't you sign up to this? Because you're awesome. You walk the talk. Your story is amazing. You're doing great work. And now I've got to go get the book. I try to read every book before I interview people, but it's just not possible. I can't read all the
Yeah,
books. But
sure.
I'm just really grateful for you. So everybody, you were blessed to get exposed to Dr. Cindra Kamphoff. Kamphoff.
Yep.
Please look for her on the Mentally Strong Institute, which is fabulous. Find her books, Beyond Grit books. Also, don't forget the free mentalbreakthroughcall.com, and you will be lucky if you can get through and get this book.
Gary, what a fabulous conversation. Thanks so much for leading it. What a great day.
It was fun. It was super fun. Hopefully, we helped some folks. All right, my friend, I appreciate you being here on the What If You Could podcast. And guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.